Hi students, sorry I'm gone again. I know you missed me, or maybe you don't, but anyways, I wanted to do the review with you because next week, Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, we're going to have a 2-day final for this class, so there will be 2 parts for the final, and this is your study guide, so you should have got a copy of it, so you should have maybe a separate sheet of paper. If you want the answers, all the answers are there for you, or they're online, so make sure you check your work and check your answers. So this isn't just about you looking at the answer, it's knowing how to do it. I'm going to show you how to do like one problem from each section so that you can work it out on your own after practice. Then you check your answers after. Don't just look at the answer and try to find it, or try to just copy it and then you're done. Remember, this is your grade. There is no retakes for finals, and we want to make sure you're ready to go. Anyways, here we go. Everyone should have a sheet of paper out. If not, the teacher should pause here before we start. Okay, so kids should be ready. So I'm going to go through each of these. Here we go. So it says solve. So when I see the word solve in math, I want you to think like, what is the variable? So on this one, you have to ask yourself what the variable is. It's right here. I already gave you the answer up here, but we need to solve it. So I'm going to put this to the side, just rewrite it over here. You got -2 times 1 minus 8v is less than or equal to -114. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is figure out how to get this v by itself. So there's a couple ways you could do this. You could distribute the 2 in here, which is totally fine, or you can divide both sides by -2, because this is like saying 2 times this. So either way is fine. So what I would do is I'm going to divide both sides by -2, so I don't have to deal with bigger numbers. So I'm dividing this left side by -2. -2 divided by -2 is 1. So, and then 1 times minus 8v is 1 minus 8v. And I divided by negative. Whenever I multiply or divide by a negative, I'm going to flip this sign, so it's going to be greater than or equal to. A negative divided by a negative is equal to a positive. And then 114 divided by 2 is positive 57. Okay? That's the first step. Next thing I'm going to do, we have a positive 1 here, right? So we know it's positive because we're imagining the negative sign there. We could assume it's there, so subtracting 1 on both sides, we got -8v is greater than or equal to positive 56. And then we got -8 being multiplied with v here, so I'm going to divide by negative again. So when I divide by negative, again I'm thinking negative divided by negative becomes a positive 1. 1 times v is v. We're dividing by a negative here, so we have to take this sign and flip it again every time we do it. So our answer is going to be -7. Okay, so there's your answer. And then we go to our number line, and you could see someone circled it right here at -7, right? So you're circling it first. And over here it's circled, and then it's less than, so it's going to the left, and then they filled it in. Okay, if it wasn't supposed to be filled in, they would put like a white dot in there, and it would just look like this. And we know it's supposed to be filled in because if you look right over here, it has an equal sign in the answer. Okay, let's pause the video here and have students write this down if they need it. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So number 3 is going to be the same thing. I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm going to let you do that one by yourself. Let's go to the next one. Let's jump down to number 5, okay? So this one says evaluate. So evaluate means like we're putting a number in and we want to find what comes out. Just like it's like a math machine. We're putting an ingredient into it and we're going to see what comes out of it. So over here we have f of x. This is our function, and we're going to put an ingredient into our machine. It's asking us to put this ingredient, -7. So there's this math machine here. If I put an ingredient into this, let's say I put, instead of x, whenever I see x, I'm going to put in -7. Okay, so I'm going to put f of negative 7 is equal to 3x minus 2. And instead of x, remember, we're not putting in x, we're putting in negative 7. Okay, because we're asking ourselves, what happens when we put this ingredient in there? So when I do this, we got 3 times negative 7 is negative 21, all minus 2. Negative 21 minus 2 is negative 23. And we're saying f of negative 7, when I put the ingredient negative 7, the output is going to be negative 23. And of course the answer is right there. Okay, so let's have the teacher pause here so students can write this down. Okay, so students should have written this down. We're going to jump over to number 9 now. 5 through 8 are the same. They get a little harder, right? You want to make sure that you plug these in carefully, all right? Number 9. Number 9 is the same as, we're going to do number 9 all the way through 16 is going to be the same. So I'm just going to go through this, or a couple of these. I'll go 9 and 11, okay, just so to help you out. Okay, so let's jump to number 9. Here we go. The answer here is 10 rad 3. So how did I figure that out? Remember we have a square root sign. I'm asking myself, what's the index here? Over here we don't have any number, so we assume it's a 2. Okay. So what we're asking ourselves are what number multiplied by itself twice, what number multiplied by itself twice can be simplified, right? So what I want to do is create a factor tree, right? And I want to find perfect squares, right? So we know our perfect squares is like 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, right? I'm not going to go through all of these, but you could keep going through these. Try to memorize them all the way up to 25 squared if you can. It'll make your life easier, which is 625, right? But anyways, we want to figure out what perfect squares, right? So what are the perfect squares? Well, I know 300 is like saying, instead of 300, I'm going to make a factor tree. It's like saying 100, which is a perfect square, times 3, right? So I could take my original problem and, let me make some space here. I could rewrite it. I could say this is just like saying the square root of 100 times 3, right? And what's the square root of 100? Well, the square root of 100 is 10, so we could simplify that. And then square root of 3, we don't have anything in there, so we're done. That's the answer. Okay? So students, you can write that down. Let's have the teacher pause for a moment. Okay, so that's how you do that one. Let's jump to number 11. Okay, this one's a little harder, right? So on number 11, same concept. So again, we have a square root sign, right? So, and we're looking at the index. We're asking ourselves, what is the index? It's 3, right? So we're asking ourselves not 2 of the same number, but 3 of the same number. So this one's a little bit more difficult, right? So we could think through this a little bit carefully. So this one, we're not thinking the same thing as last one. Remember how we were talking about 1 squared is equal to 1, 2 squared is equal to 4, and then we go down to, 25 squared is equal to 625. We don't want to think of squares, right? Because our number this time is cubes. So we have to think of a different kind of list. We have to think of cubes, right? We have 1 cubed is 1. We got 2 cubed is not 6, it's 8, right? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Or 3 cubed is 27, right? So if I keep doing this, I know 4 cubed is 64, and then 5 cubed is 125, right? So as I practice this, I know that 750, I could rewrite this as 125 times 6, right? Because I know that 125 times 2 is 250, and 250 goes into 753 times, right? So this is how I'm going to rewrite this. Now, I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here so you see the answer, or you have the answers. So there's a couple things we need to think about. We have the cube root. So we're going to write 125 times 3, right? And then the other thing I want you to think about is this negative sign. I know that a negative times a negative is a positive, right? And then a negative or if we multiply that by a negative again, we're going to get a negative number. So I could think about the negative sign as negative times negative times negative, right? So now we have three of the same things being multiplied. So here we go. So the cube root of negative times negative times negative is the same thing as just, we could simplify it to be a negative number. The cube root of 125, if you look here, what's the cube root of 125? It is 5, right? So we're taking out a negative 5 here. Then the cube root of 3 doesn't exist, at least perfectly, so we're going to leave it like this. So we got negative 5 cube root of 3. Okay, so let's go to get a little harder. Again, this is review, so let's have the teacher pause the video here as students write this down. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going. So I'm going to go all the way down. Let's go down to 17, okay? So I'm going to click on 17, and that should help you get to number 20 for today. So exponential properties. I'm only going to do 17 just to kind of remind you of how to do this. Again, you do have the answer, so there we go. Okay, so number 17, we have power properties. Let me just remind you of them really quick. When you have like a power with the same base times a power with the same base, you don't add, or you don't multiply the numerators, you add them, so it's m to the 5th here. Or if you have like m cubed divided by m to the 2nd. Same bases, we're dividing, we're going to subtract the power, so it's m to the 1st. Or we have another way to look at this division one is like m cubed over m squared, which is like we could take, oh, there's 2 on the bottom, take 2 off the top, leaving just m to the 1st, or just m, right? So like these two problems are the same, right? And then the other example is, let's say you had m to the 3rd raising it again to the 2nd. When you have a power being raised by power, you multiply. So this is like saying 3 times 2, which is m to the 6th. Okay, so those are the properties. Oh, and then anything to the 0 power, again, anything to the 0 power is 1, and anything to the 1st power is itself. Okay, so those are your power properties. You've learned these since 7th grade. I know that because I've taught 7th grade math. So you should know these. I've taught you these in Algebra 1. You're seeing these again in Algebra 2. So here we go. So how do I do this problem here on the left? Okay, it's all about organization. So we have a final answer here. I'm going to erase that to give myself some space. So we have this term times this term times this term, right? And each of them has its own coefficient, right? This one doesn't look like it has a coefficient, but it really has a coefficient of 1. And then we got this term here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to just multiply. Oop, there's the answer again. I'm going to multiply the the coefficient. So we got 3, and then we got a 1, and then we got a 2. So I'm thinking, what's 3 times 1 times 2? Well, that's 6, right? So your answer should have 6. Then I'm going to focus on my m's. We got m to the 4th times m to the negative 3rd. Same base, and it's being multiplied, so we combine. So what's 4 plus a negative 3? It's 1. And then we, m to the 1st times another m is going to be m squared here, right? So I'm going to bring an m squared down. And then, of course, we have the last one, which is n's. Focusing on my n's, we got n cubed times n cubed, which is n to the 6th. N to the 6th times n squared is n to the 8th, right? We're going to add them together, and that's your answer. And that should be what I have here. Yep, and except over here, the answer is not in descending order. I'd suggest putting in m squared n to the 8th, but like on a multiple choice test, which is what your final is going to be, this is an okay answer. Okay, let's have the teacher have you write this down. So let's pause the video here. Alright kids, so that's your review for the day. You have the rest of I want you to do numbers 1 through 20, okay? And I know you have all the answers, so you're going to do numbers 1 through 20, do them on a separate sheet of paper, and that's your review. You're going to get as much as you put into it, so if you don't put effort into it, you know, your final's coming up, ready or not, it's worth 2 test grades. So there are almost 80 problems in this packet. We have 4 days, so today we're going to go through 20, tomorrow we'll do another 20, and that's it, okay? That concludes this video lesson. Bye-bye.